The fun will really begin Thursday going forward. But here to share some thoughts on the Mueller report that evidently we will see some of on Thursday and where we go from here. I've asked Eric Levai to come talk with us. He's host of the incredibly popular Mueller Time podcast. Eric, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, man.
Anytime. So what are you thinking Thursday? What's your thoughts on what we're going to see Thursday?
Well, I think you articulated it actually perfectly. I think that, Barr is fundamentally the guy. I mean, you and your listeners know his history. He's a cover-up artist. So I think, while you want to hope for the best, I think unfortunately we're going to see what you said, which is a lot of redactions. But we'll see, right?
Yeah, I mean, any chance you see Congress actually growing a set and subpoenaing them and going after getting? Because I think at some point they've got to see the unredacted report. There's got to be, at least in Congress, somebody seeing what this is, or I think impeachment has to start.
Yeah, and like I said on our last show, even on Mueller time, this should have happened, yesterday. I mean, the Republicans only, as you know, they only really understand one thing, and that's kind of ruthless displays of power.
Yep.
So man.
No, bullies only understand one thing: other bullies.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's how it works. It's going to have to work out. But, again, this is one of those moments where so many people put so much faith in Mueller that there was going to be some there. And we might not even get to know what, as a public, we might not get to know what there was.
Yeah, I mean, we, like they said, we paid for, this is our report. You paid for it. In fact, the report was profitable with all the money they took from Manafort. So this whole thing is insane. I mean, I guess we thought Nixon was bad. This is a cover-up.
So now, since you brought up Nixon, because there was Leon Jaworski was one of the guys who was leading an investigation back then, and the thought is of the Mueller report that he's following the Jaworski path, which was he collected all of the information, put all the information together in a report for Congress to actually go through and choose to do what with. Which could explain why Mueller didn't make a decision one way or another on obstruction. Do you see that as something viable, or how do you see this from what we know right now?
We really need Mueller to testify, because at this point, I think that's a great guess, but somebody needs to step up and be a patriot, either leak this report or they need to testify, because I don't know.
One of the first things that I said that I would have liked to have seen, I'd like to see Mueller put out two reports. One that, had all of the grand jury testimony in it and stuff that he believed should not have been included in an official report. Things that, were hearsay, whatever. And then there had to be a shorter report of, these are the findings in layman's terms. So that you go, here, this is what my findings were, without all the classified information, without all of the names of the people who told us this stuff, but that we get an understanding of what it is that he was investigating.
Yeah, and we know now, too, that Mueller and his team wrote summaries for each. They did their own summary, and Barr, that's how you know how bad this probably is, because he still chose not to include those summaries. There's something bad in there.
No, of course there's bad in there, because we know there's bad, right? I mean, we've heard all of these stories about the Trump Tower meeting, about the meeting with Eric Prince in the Seychelles. We know, Carter Page, working for the campaign from Russia. We know all this stuff happened.
Right.
And I want to know the justification for not saying that there was some coordination going on there. Now, I don't know about you, but I never believed there was a quid pro quo kind of, collusion going on with videotapes of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin shirtless with pillow talk. I never believed that was ever possible. But I do believe that they're oligarchs. They run in the same circles. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. They've been working together for decades. So to me, it wasn't about some scheme or some nefarious plot. It's who they are.
Yeah, it's all about money. I mean, I was listening to your show before. You're talking about you're a union guy, and so am I. And they're like these guys, Trump, Putin. These guys are like management. They don't care about. They're ruthless. They'll do whatever they have to do, and so that's, in the end, that is what this was about. It was about money. But do I think there's some tapes? I mean, yeah, I think there probably are. But that's not what this is about.
There's some tapes of Trump and Putin shirtless, or are you talking about the P tape?
The P tape. Yeah.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Given what Trump has done policy-wise since taking office, that everything that had Obama's name on it, he's overturned, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if that tape exists.
You know what's really scary, though? I don't think that tape even bothers him. It's really just about the money.
Yeah.
If that was to leak, I think he would just, go about his business.
Oh, sure. I mean, much like the grab her by the you-know-what.
Yeah. It's really sad, isn't it? What you said, I heard you say before what we've come to. I mean, could you ever have imagined this?
I said, on Inauguration Day, things are going to get really bad. I said things are going to get really bad and going to test the institutions of this country and the will of the people and our democracy. I knew it was going to be really bad. I'll be completely and totally honest. I didn't think it was going to be this bad.
Me neither, man.
No, and I think that's a lot of people. I talked to a lot of people who go, it was going to be bad, but it's not a day off, and that's part of the strategy to get us to tune out and turn away and just say, no, I just want the pain to stop, Eric. Just please make it stop.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying this is the greatest cover-up in history because a substantial. I mean, again, going back to Nixon. We haven't even seen the report, but they were able to somehow fool a substantial portion of this country into thinking that this mess is over.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
No, I mean, immediately I got, all the conservative crazies emailing me going, it's over. You lost. I'm going, but I haven't seen anything yet. What are you talking about? We lost. I got the cliff notes from somebody who's, I got the cliff notes for a test from a crackhead. I'm going to trust that.
It's probably Adderall, but you pretty much got it, Rick. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of Trump. My bad.
Well, or Ambien if you're thinking of Roseanne. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who I'm surprised is not in his cabinet yet with all the crazies that maybe put her on the Fed instead of Herman Cain.
Yeah, and you were talking about the border too, and what I said on our last show is on Mueller time is this isn't getting better. This can't go on like this. So either impeach this guy or make some kind of move because we can't go on like this.
No, you're right. And, at the end of it, this report was supposed to be that thing that said, look, this is what we debate over. And we're not even debating what's in the report anymore because we don't know what's in it. And this is, again, why I think, the Republicans do this so much better than Democrats do because they had a response ready. The second it came out, I don't know about you, but my email box was just slammed from every right-wing group in unison with the same message. And it's not like, 100 people are going to come up with the same exact message individually. There was tons of coordination because the moneyed interest won it.
Rick, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Republican, they're authoritarians, and the one benefit is that they follow the one party line. And sometimes Democrats, we could learn a little bit from that sometimes.
No, I've been saying it for years. The Democrats, they don't invest in infrastructure. They've built nothing in the world of talk radio to speak of. They have very little presence on cable news because they've never invested in it. They're basically just scattershot when it comes to messaging because they don't invest in it. They invest in candidates, spend a lot of money on candidates, but on building infrastructure for those candidates to promote ideas and to fight for working class values, forget it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't chosen a candidate yet, but I did attend a Bernie Sanders rally recently, and the operation, man, they really have it organized. It was very impressive.
No, Sanders, as I've said, a number of times, Sanders was the first guy I ever interviewed when I started this show 14 years ago, and he was my guy in 2016. I voted for him in the primary. I did vote for Hillary because, who wanted this nightmare as president?
Yeah.
But, at the end of it, Sanders is kind of my front runner, but I like Buttigieg. I like Kamala Harris. I really like Elizabeth Warren, even though I don't think she's got a snowball's chance. But I think she's the most brilliant person in the room. And she should stay in the Senate and push those policies like hell. Just my thought on it.
Yeah, the irony is the one of the few good things that came out of this, whatever has happened in the last 2 years, this is the best. I mean, you tell me, but it seems like the best crop of candidates I've ever seen for office.
Yeah, and the guy who I thought was really going to be the front runner, Joe Biden, isn't even in yet.
Yeah, that's. I mean, he's jumping in, right?
Who knows? At this point, he's falling behind. If he doesn't do it soon, he's going to be out before he's in. He's going to kind of shoot himself in the foot again by dithering. because look, everybody else is moving forward, and the rise of Buttigieg is one of those things where maybe there's not space for him when he jumps in.
And the one thing I wish, going back to Mueller, is that it's hard for me sometimes. These candidates sidestep the Mueller thing. They're like, well, Americans care about jobs. Well, what's more important than if your president is a compromised asset of another country? Like, no, I think Americans actually do care about that.
Absolutely. I think Richard Nixon was right. We want to know if our president's a crook.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and this is where I don't know if you've been following, what House Democrats are doing, but they're going after Deutsche Bank, they're going after Mazars USA, they're going after these companies who did business with Trump and seeking his tax returns if Mnuchin at Treasury doesn't give it to them. Because look, to me, the reason he's hiding this, there's a lot of shady stuff in those tax returns, and you follow the money to corruption, follow the money to bribery, follow the money to all kind of shady dealings.
Yeah, they're doing great, and I mean, my congressman Adam Schiff is obviously on, at the front of that, and he's, what I wish they just need to have just pick one leader to get out front and say, this can't stand. We need to, in other words, I think our investigators are on top of it, but the message, that's what they need to take from the Republicans. Put one person out there and just say, this won't stand.
Yeah, well, the Republicans have always had, and I have friends who were a friend who's a former Republican congressman, and he said, the one thing Republicans were always good at is message discipline. They hammered you on it, and they had copious amounts of meetings to ensure that you were on message, and if you went off message, they jumped all over you. And that's something that, again, the Democrats, being the party of cats scattered all over the place, haven't really been able to do that.
What made me think of, too, maybe I was just going to ask you, how did these guys take over, like you and a couple other guys are doing great radio, but how did these guys take over, like, right-wing radio?
They bought it.
That's what they bought it.
You go back to, I lived through it, so I remember it. AM radio was dying. FM, all the music went to FM because the sound quality was so much better. AM was dying. In came Limbaugh. And he was the savior of AM radio because they were buying him onto stations at $100 and $150 an hour for 3 hours a day, which basically gave these stations a good amount of operating money. And businesses began to advertise again to support that message because it was a corporate message. They were going after unions, they were going after government. So you had all of this influx of corporate money. You also have to go back to, I don't know if you've ever read the Powell Memo, but you have to go back and read the Powell Memo to understand that the corporate idea was we have to save free enterprise from the socialist unions and those Democrats. So they set up, the Heritage Foundation. They set up ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council. They set up all these think tanks, these state policy networks, and they all work together in unison under one pot of money. The billionaire, the Koch brother money, the billionaire money funds all this stuff, and it funnels down. And in every state in this country, you have a conservative think tank. Here in Pennsylvania, it's the Commonwealth Foundation. But you have these think tanks, and they all pound the same message. And they create an environment for talk radio people to make a decent living by going to their events, and they make them little stars, and it's really masterful plotting and planning, and you really have to be in awe of the level of investment and commitment to investment that it took, because it was 40 years in the making to get where they are now.
Yeah, to where like back to Mueller, like a majority of the public now, with an if the population was just more, I don't know, civics or educated, whatever word you want to use, then it wouldn't matter what Trump said because they would know that he was lying.
Right. But again, you have to go back to Reagan ending the fairness doctrine, which gave you the rise of Limbaugh. Back in the old days, and I remember this, and I remember the old Archie Bunker shows of, somebody would say something and then someone would get to go on and rebut what that person said. Because as a matter of law, under the fairness doctrine, you had to give equal time for varying opinions. And because the idea was that you were fostering, both sides of the issue. You're fostering debate. Now, the argument against the fairness doctrine, obviously, is that you'll stymie all political debate and they'll just walk away from it completely. But here in the age of the internet, there's no way to go backwards. So what we have to do is we have to build forward. At least that's my thought.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We can, and that's happening. I mean, like, look at me. The Mueller Time podcast only started because I woke up like a lot of people the day after Election Day, and I was like, no way, man.
Yeah.
No way.
Well, that's how this started. That's how I started. 2004, I woke up after the Bush election, and Kerry lost, and Kerry surrendered. And I said, this is ridiculous. Weak Democrats, bad policy, something's got to be done. And I started this in 2005.
That's amazing.
And you're right. It's that kind of activism. It's that kind of anger that brings people to, basically brings them to the streets. And I'm hoping that there's more people like you, more people like me, more people who are going to step forward, stand up, speak out, and be counted.
Yeah, anger is you're right. You're so right. Anger is when properly directed, it can be a force for good. Or when not properly directed, it turns into a Trump rally.
Of which
sadly.
I understand there's another one coming up real soon. So again, more fun and games there. I want to go back to the Mueller thing because to me, I'm really there's part of me that's really shocked that there weren't more leaks, that there weren't any leaks, that this was done so secretively, and I guess you could argue because I lived through these Ken Starr years. Where virtually every day there was a press conference on what they found, and there was I can go right now and read the unredacted Starr report. I said from the beginning we're not going to be able to do that with this because there was such secrecy. Are you surprised that they were able to keep the leaks to a minimum, and is that a good thing?
I'm very surprised. My understanding is that most of that came out of that Mueller. What I read was that Mueller commanded the respect, like those people that work for him love him, and some of them have worked for him, for years and in other capacities. And what I read was that Starr literally was the boss that nobody liked.
Right.
And so leaking was a kind of a way to get back. But yeah, I am surprised. And while I think that was good at the time, the time to leak is now. I know somebody took that report home, I know somebody has it somewhere, and I'm like begging, like if anyone is listening to the show who. You never know, just please, that we need to see that report.
Yeah, just drop it off at any any newspaper that's still somewhat marginally functional and close to bankruptcy yet. It might actually help them stay afloat. Drop it off, anonymously. They don't even have to know who dropped it off.
Yeah, or at your show or my show or anywhere.
Look, it's got to get out there somehow. So let me ask you a last line of questioning because, it comes back to us. It comes back to activism. If on Thursday we see what the joke has been as a full page of black ink with and collusion, kind of stuck out in letters, what are you suggesting people do? What do you think Friday brings?
Honestly, I think the millions of people need to be in the streets wherever you live. I mean, I know that not everybody always can do that. So whatever, phone calls are great, congressman, whatever. But at this point, a message needs to be sent. And while I think like what you do, what I do, it's great to be on a mic. But there's nothing really more powerful than the streets filled as far as someone can see. And I think until that happens, these people are going to continue to do what they've been doing.
Yeah, and no matter how many people are in the streets, it's still not going to be as big as the Trump inauguration.
Yeah.
Or at least in Trump's mind.
That was a hell of an entertainment lineup, too, by the way. Yeah.
It was something. I don't know what it was, but it was something.
Yeah, it was really something.
But good stuff. I hope people will check out Mueller Time Podcast. You can get it on iTunes or one of your favorite podcasting sites. Eric, I appreciate the time. I'd love to have you come back and share some more time with us.
Rick, I would love to. And I just want to say I listened to a lot of the show today and especially I heard the Stop and Shop part, and keep the union thing. Like, I'm a union guy, too. I love what you do. Just keep doing it.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Good stuff, Eric. Eric Levai, host of the Mueller Time Podcast. Like I said, you can get that at iTunes or any of the places where you get your podcast. You can also follow him on Twitter at Mueller Time Pod.